Good morning, and welcome to this special news conference on the mayor's first trip to our sister city, Zibo, China. Today, we will provide information on the delegation, the trip itinerary, the funding for the trip, and the potential economic impact. And now I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you, Renee. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. As you all know, my team's mission is to build opportunity, restore hope, transform Erie. I'm happy to talk to you today about how we're going to reach out on a global scale starting tomorrow to try to help accomplish this. My team and I are very excited about the potential for this inaugural trip to Zibo. Zibo has been our sister city since 1985. Over the years, the two cities have carried out many cultural, educational exchanges that have really benefited both cities. In fact, if you've ever entered City Hall, you probably noticed two massive vases adorning the main lobby. These two vases were sent to Erie as a gift from Zibo in 1995 to honor our 10th anniversary as established sister cities. The mayor of Zibo at the time was Li Shushen. He led a delegation here to Erie to celebrate that anniversary with Mayor Joyce Savacchio. The Chinese characters on the vase translate as follows: the 10th anniversary of the Erie and Zibo establishing international sister city relationship, gifted by Zibo Municipal People's Government, September 1995. The two vases are made of ceramic. They're decorated by dragons, which mean dignity, success, and power in the Chinese culture. In the ancient times, only the emperor's palace and the emperor's clothes could be decorated with dragons. Typically, it takes several artists 6 to 8 months to create vases of that size. Zibo is famous for its ceramics in China. When the Erie delegation goes to Zibo next week, we will visit the Chinese ceramics and the glass museum in Zibo. The gate of the museum also has two similar large vases, also decorated with dragons. Our relationship with Zibo has waned since about 2010. We began revitalizing this relationship in March of last year when my chief of staff, Renee Labus, received a congratulatory letter from Han Lin, who is the section chief for American and Ocean Affairs for Zibo Municipal People's Government. Han Lin has been handling contact between our cities since 2007. Soon after, I also received a congratulatory letter from Mayor Yu Hussein. The delegation that's going to accompany me includes Chris Groner, our Director of Economic and Community Development, Gary Horton, Executive Director of the Urban Erie Community Development Corporation and President of the NAACP, Li Hong Ni, who will be our Custom Advisor and Translator, and Glenn Renaud. Glenn is a businessman with extensive experience in financial markets and small business ownership. He is the owner and founder of Pennsylvania International Academy, located here in Erie, Pennsylvania. He has traveled extensively in China and has brought hundreds of Chinese students to Erie to study. Next, I'll give you an overview of our itinerary for the trip, and you'll also receive a complete copy of the itinerary for your reference. Renee has those with her. So we depart Erie tomorrow morning to go to Detroit. From Detroit, after our 15-hour in the air, we'll be traveling over the North Pole during that 15 hours and go through 12 different time zones. We will arrive in Beijing on Sunday about 2:45 in the afternoon their time. On Monday morning, April 15th, we'll take a 3-hour high-speed train down to Zibo. That itself will be an experience. The train we're going to ride on has top speeds of 300 miles an hour. Our meetings begin immediately after disembarking from the train with formal introductions to the Mayor of Zibo, Principal People's Government, the Director of Foreign Affairs Office of Zibo Municipal People's Government, and the Secretary of CPC Zibo Municipal Committee, and several other government officials will be meeting at that time. The introductions will be followed by a welcoming banquet. Every day is filled with at least 12 hours of high-level meetings, including working lunches. Each evening, there will be a working dinner, which we understand will last anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. Dinners are a very important part of life in Chinese, a little different here where we grab things on the run. Tuesday through Friday is filled with visits to local businesses, schools, hospitals, and cultural facilities. One of the companies we'll be visiting is called Gongli Machine Manufacturing Company. Gongli is owned by Dora's mother. Now, Dora is a foreign exchange student from China who's living here in Erie with Mark and Ellie Tannenbaum, and she's attending Villa High School right now. I've met Dora a couple times, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about her at the end of the presentation today. We will also engage in the following relationship building and development meetings throughout the week. The Zebois Erie Economic and Trade Cooperation Organization by ZEBO Municipal Commerce Bureau. The Zebois Erie Educational Cooperation organized by Zebois Municipal Education Bureau. The Zebois Erie Public Health Cooperation organized by Zebois Municipal Health Commission. And the Zebois Erie Cities Exchange and Cooperation organized by Foreign Affairs Office of the Zebois Municipal People's Government. We will meet with officials of the Education Bureau, the Commerce Bureau, Culture and Tourism Bureau, Health Commission, and the Sports Bureau. We will return to Beijing on Saturday and arrive back in Erie late Sunday evening. I think we get in about 9:40 p.m. on Sunday evening. So we've prepared 3 PowerPoints that we're taking with us for the visit. The first one I'll be presenting, it's an overview of Erie, and it'll include things like our Erie video, which was produced by Menagerie Studios, the Erie's geography, our industrial history, our transportation, our arts and culture, our demographics here, our employment, our housing, and of course I'll be talking about our mission and our vision for the future of Erie. The second education will be an educational PowerPoint, which will be delivered by Glenn Renaud. The educational PowerPoint showcases our 4 local universities, LECOM, Mercyhurst High School, Cathedral Prep, Villa High School, as well as Erie's Public Schools will be featured in that presentation. And then finally, Chris Groner will present the third PowerPoint about the economic and community development opportunities here in Erie. Chris's presentation will include reasons to invest in Erie, our 8 opportunity zones, current Erie development projects such as Bayfront Place, Harbor Place, the renovation of the Avalon into a DoubleTree by Hilton, SB3 Industrial Park, and the Savacchio Opportunity Park. We want to thank Brett Weiler, James Grunke, and James' entire team at the Chamber of Commerce for assisting us with developing the Economic Development PowerPoint. I'd next like to invite Chris Groner to come up to the podium and explain where the funding for this trip is coming from, and also talk about the potential economic impact of this growing relationship. Chris.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. The question of how this trip is going to be funded has been asked a few times now, and so I'm happy to be given the opportunity to address the topic. Along with our 3 economic development loan funds and our 2 grant assistance programs, the City of Erie also supports an economic development recruitment account. It is this account that is covering the cost of our trip. The roots for this recruitment account, along with one of our loan funds, can be traced back to a HUD program that was in operation from 1978 through 1989. The Urban Development Action Grant Program awarded nearly $5 billion in assistance to approximately 3,000 economic and community development projects to more than 1,200 cities during its 12 years of operation. The program was designed to assist with commercial, industrial, and housing development projects in distressed urban areas, and to help revitalize cities through the encouragement of private sector investment. Erie, like most cities, spent funds on various projects over the years. However, unlike most cities, we invested a portion of ours into an economic development loan fund and a recruitment account. Not only has this given us additional resources to assist Erie businesses, but it has also ensured that our funding capacity remains sustainable and continues to grow 30 years after the program ended. For the sake of perspective, The cost of this trip is roughly equivalent to approximately 6 weeks' worth of interest earned on just this one economic development loan fund alone. These funds have been invested into economic and community development projects and programs, and these funds are also required to be invested into economic and community development projects and programs, with other uses being strictly forbidden. I believe that the city has been very sensible with the use of these funds over the years, and it shows by the fact that we still have these resources and that we continue to use them and grow them 30 years later. One more point as it relates to cost. Glenn Renaud, Gary Horton, and Li Hong Ni are paying their own way, along with the fact that our sister city has graciously agreed to provide us with lodging and is covering most of the meals while we're there. This trip not only fits the intent, definition, and mandated use of these funds, it is the appropriate use of these resources. So why are we going? What are the economic implications and potential outcomes? China is the second largest economy in the world, with a GDP of over $14 trillion. Zibois is a city of over 4 million people and over 500 companies that operate in that immediate area. The potential is truly enormous. We should not ignore that possibility. There is already an economic impact in Erie from having this relationship. There have been over 1,000 students from Zibois and other parts of China that have been attending schools in our area over the past 8 years. Most of these schools require that these students fly in and out of the Erie International Airport, traffic that helps support our airport, activity that helps to sustain jobs with the students that are living here at any given time through retail and shopping, restaurants, academics, the tuition that's paid to attend the schools here, all of that activity adding up to millions of dollars of activity in the Erie economy that is taking place right now because of our existing relationship. China is America's largest trading partner, with exports to China continuing to be an important part of our economic growth. U.S. goods exports to China continue to outpace export growth to the rest of the world. U.S. exports of goods to China have grown by over 86% in the last decade, compared to the rest of the world with a growth rate of 21%. China is currently the third largest market for our goods and services, only surpassed by our NAFTA trading partners, Canada and Mexico. Exports to China currently support over 1 million American jobs, and states across the country have jobs that are supported to exports to China, making trade important not only to companies and consumers, but to the workers as well. U.S. goods exports to China come from a wide range of industries, including transportation, equipment, agriculture, computers and electronics, oil and gas, sustaining logistics jobs in America's ports and throughout the country. U.S. services exports to China include travel and education, transportation, financial, business, and professional services, among other industries. U.S. goods exports to China increased by $14 billion in 2017 alone, growing twice as fast as the exports to the rest of the world. I have personally worked with businesses in Erie that are currently producing goods for foreign companies, components that are integrated into cars, electronics, and other finished products. I have personally seen these parts being shipped to China, to Europe, to Japan, and to all parts of the globe, right here in Erie. These Erie businesses, or there are Erie businesses that are subsidiaries of Chinese companies, and there are local firms that have ownership interests in Chinese businesses. Simply put, we must be engaged. We are not practicing theoretical trade policy. We are working to support today's reality on the ground in Erie. It's our responsibility to support these local businesses and industry and educational institutions that already have an economic interest in our relationship with Zibois and the rest of China. It's also our duty to seek out additional opportunities for Erie businesses, because I believe Erie must look beyond its city limits for new investments, growth, and opportunity, and I believe this trip makes for a good start on that journey. We're looking forward to the opportunity to reignite this relationship. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chris. I appreciate all you're doing to stimulate the economy here locally, and this is another huge step in that direction. Next, I'd like to ask Gary Horton to come up. He's going to talk about the sister city relationship that he was part of back during the Slovakia administration, and his future, more importantly, his view of the future of how this relationship can continue to grow.
First of all, I'd like to thank the mayor and commend his team for their foresight and their efforts at leaving no stone unturned to try to turn Erie around, and to be willing to go anywhere, any neighborhood, any country, in order to advance the interests of our community. And I appreciate further his intent to be inclusive and to provide even the people on the bottom, or the people that are from the poorest neighborhoods in Erie, and the people who represent the spirit of what opportunity zones and the new tax legislation was meant to do, to turn around low-income neighborhoods and communities. In the neighborhood in which I am fortunate enough to have an opportunity zone designation with some property, 7,000 residents will benefit from our success. And 50% of those residents are minority, and 35% of them are poor. So this is just another opportunity for us to hook our wagon to the mayor's horse and to go in the direction with the mayor and what he's trying to do. We think it is also a benefit to take someone on the trip who has a relationship with the Chinese, who's been to China before, who was a part of the most extensive, productive part of the Erie Zibo relationship under the direction of Mayor Joyce Sabakio. And that I welcome those delegations who came here to Erie. I drove them personally to Niagara Falls and other places in the U.S. in order to meet our commitment to their having the kind of rich experience that they provided us. I went on the first trip with the mayor. I was able to go on the second trip on behalf of the mayor, on behalf of the mayor's office. And I've maintained a relationship both at Zibo University and with some of the people from the government times and some part of that time. So we think that it is good to put a face on our relationship that they are aware of, the people that they know, to put a face on the opportunity that we want to attract them to here in Erie, and to put a face that Erie is on the path of being a world-class city. And the last thing I'd like to say is, when they sent those vases, Mayor, back and to commemorate our 10-year anniversary, they sent them to me. And they addressed them here in City Hall, because we were both of the opinion that if they went anywhere else, they would end up in the museum as opposed to City Hall. And so our plan worked. They've been here since that time. Many citizens and visitors have been able to appreciate and view them and get a piece of the history of how they've come. I believe one year we took a bell tower over from Mayor Sabakio, and they have it there. Hopefully they'll show us that, how we commemorated what our gift to the people of Zibo was at that time. And again, it's a good opportunity and a privilege on my behalf to be a part of your team and helping turn Erie around and give everyone the sense that we're not a hopeless community, and that we are a community on the rise. We are a community that recognizes that some of the challenges that we face are opportunities for us. And we have the initiative and the wherewithal and that to take advantage of that. So again, I thank you, Mayor. Thank your team. Thank you, Renee, for everything. And I consider it on my behalf an investment to help support my part of being committed to your efforts. And so again, thank you, and we'll see you when we come back. Okay.
Thank you very much, Gary. My team and I certainly agree with you that this is an opportunity for us to really build a meaningful relationship with Zebois, which will result in mutually beneficial investment, education, and cultural exchanges. Erie is committed to long-term relationship with our sister city, Zebois. We want to strengthen the ties between us and grow together to build a harmonious, mutually beneficial relationship and friendship. This trip is the first step in growing that relationship. The last two things that I want to conclude with today, there's just two things. First, we'll be doing a lot of special things in Zebois to rebuild the relationship. One of the things I'm actually most excited about is that Erie's poet laureate, Chuck Joy, wrote a poem for me to present in Zebois. We also had the poem translated into Mandarin. I'd like to read the poem to you. It's short. I'm going to read it in English. But the poem is Enhancing Our Relationship, a poem written for Zebois, China by Erie, Pennsylvania poet laureate Chuck Joy. Poetry. It's everywhere. The laughter of children, a shiver in the wind. Particular words, their sounds, language arranged in lines to share, a beautiful music and silence. Our breath, the instrument. This poem, an effort toward beauty in speech and truth. Life is suffering. Peace, a long road, a wide horizon. Love, happy, splashing in warm, shallow water. Let us continue enhancing our relationship. That's the poem. If you want to see a copy of it in Chinese, I do have it with me. You can look at it later. Finally, you'll remember I mentioned Dora, the Chinese student who's currently studying at Villa Maria Academy. Since I'm actually going to be meeting Dora's mother in Zebois when I visit her factory, in one of my meetings with Dora, she presented actually a speech to me that she had written. And it was her thoughts and kind of her advice on what the trip should be like. I'd like to share with you, I'd like to read to you the conclusion of her speech that she did for me. And by the way, Dora's name in Chinese is Chengyang Zhang. And here's what she said to me. In summation, there are just too many things to talk about regarding Zebois, but we can see the big picture by looking at the small things first. My mom invests capital annually so some of her employees can go to Europe to study. This plan works for the long term. After 30 years, Gongli grew up from a tiny factory to a big group company. Erie and Zebois need time to reconnect, just like my mother's small company learned from Europe and took decades to grow into what it is today. One of my mother's biggest challenges, even today, is to find talented people to run her company. Kind of sounds familiar to what's going on in Erie right now, doesn't it? And she goes on. Many companies, whether in Zebois or Erie, have that problem. Perhaps this is an area where we can help one another. To take advantage is not the focus of sisterhood. Remember, we're sister cities, but it's to grow up together. It has been so many years since the last time Erie and Zebois connected with each other. I understand we want to make this trip successful. However, it is hard to get the success that everyone imagines the first time. Just making the decision to go to Zebois is already part of the success. We have different cultures and different languages. It will be difficult to bond on the first try. For example, it would be easier if I could have written this talk in Chinese. It just takes time. We need to continue to build on this initial exchange. We want to work towards the future. There are so many factors to encourage us to cooperate. The arts, technology, all the experts. Zebois is not Beijing or Shanghai. Erie is not New York City or Los Angeles. We have similar latitudes. We are both close to water. We are perfectly matched sister cities. Thank you very much for being here today, and everyone that spoke will be available for interviews. Thank you.